So this is Dr. Kavita Singh, Associate Professor in Department of Civil Engineering in Institute of Aeronautical Engineering. So today we are going to discuss topic called as watershed management. So if you remember in the previous lectures, we have just learned about what are the different types of flood and drought, different types of disasters which may occur in such regions and how it is impacted, how the impacts will be affecting the environment, how it is affected by that kind of conditions may affect the society, that kind of conditions may affect the economy of any country. So here in watershed management, we have to understand first of all what is watershed, how this management practices are required, for what purpose it is required, which areas are required, which areas to be needed, this watershed management practices are needed for which kind of areas, because all the areas are not same and everywhere the rainfall is not similar. Some places the rainfall is more, some places the rainfall is less. So this is how we have to understand first of all what is watershed management. So let us start with the lecture. So we have here different contents here: introduction to watershed management, key components of watershed. So first of all, we have to understand what is watershed. So what is watershed? So watershed is an area, the land that drains or sheds water into a specific water body. So like every body of water has a watershed, like all the area, all the world, the entire world is a watershed. Why? Because suppose this is the water which is flowing from the mountains. It flows from the mountains like this, flows from the mountain, and it will just flow like this from all the directions, and it will be collected to a common outlet. Okay, so this is the common outlet. So from here, so this is one stream, this is one stream. Okay, so this is one stream, so this is one stream. So these are the different streams which will go and fall to a single outlet. So here watershed is an area of land that drains or sheds. So drain means it starts from here. For suppose here is the slope, so it starts from here, it goes to a plain area. So wherever the water is collected, that entire area is called as watershed. So sheds water into a specific water body. So every body of water has a watershed. Every body of the water has a watershed. So wherever we see a sea or lake or river or pond, so these all water bodies, it has a watershed. Because how these areas are getting filled with water, because all the water which is draining from all the regions, it will go and collect to a common outlet. So that common outlet is called as a watershed. So watershed drains rainfall and snowmelt into the streams and river. Now all the rivers, how the water comes in that river is through rainfall either. So whenever a rainfall occurs, so it drains from the higher region to a lower lying regions, and the water is collected in such region. And through snowmelt. So what is a snowmelt here? So suddenly, due to this global warming, wherever the global warming occurs, due to the global warming, melting of ice will take place. So once the melting of ice will take place, the entire water is melted and it will go to the water body, and that will be the water will be flowing as a form of rivers or lakes. So streams and rivers are these smaller bodies of water flows into a larger ones, including the lakes, bay, and the oceans. It will flow as the larger ones and including the lakes, bay, and the oceans. Now this is what the watershed it looks like. So now here this is the common outlet actually. Common. So here also you can see here this is the common outlet, or just you can say this is the storage of the water. So the water is stored here. So this is the storage of the water. Okay. So how the water is stored? So precipitation will take place. So the precipitation will take place by either precipitation in the form of rain, either in the form of snow. So it falls on the ground, it falls on the hilly areas, and the water flows like this and goes to the common outlet. Okay, so here it is flowing and coming and mixing here. From here it is coming and mixing here, and from here it coming and mixing here. So this is the common place the water is getting stored. So from here it percolates inside and then it goes to the groundwater. It becomes a groundwater. So here percolation is there. From here it becomes a groundwater. So this is how it happens in this region also. If you see, this is one tributary, this is one tributary, this is one. So from all the places, what is happening? So like this, the slope direction is here. So the slope direction is here. So from here, the water will flow, come and flow to this common outlet. So this is called as watershed. So this region is called as watershed. Okay. This region is called as watershed. Right. So this is how the watershed will occur in all the regions or everywhere in entire country, entire world. The entire world is a watershed because water, whatever falls on the ground, it flows and it collects to a common place. So that is called as a watershed region. Now here watershed is an area of the land drains a particular point along a stream. So like this, as I showed in the previous one, so these are the streams which are draining and coming here and joining, draining and coming here and joining. This will become a watershed region. So this area, the entire region from where the streams are joining. So these are the streams, different streams you can see. So this region is called as the watershed. So why? Because it is shedding the water from these all areas and it is coming to the entire this location. So this is called as the watershed now. Now what is watershed management? So watershed management is the process of planning and implementing strategies. So how we can just plan, implement for the different strategies to manage the water body. So suppose in this you can see a lot of water which is flowing and coming here. But in some watershed regions there is a very less rainfall and there is these many streams won't be there. So in that case the problem may occur. So in that case we need some planning and management to manage that watershed. So planning and management and implementing the strategies to manage the water and resources within the watershed. A geographic area that drains to common waterway. So it's a geographic area which will drain to a common waterway such as streams, lakes or river. So it drains to the common waterway in the form of either streams, either lake or a river, which is effective watershed management. It's a crucial for maintaining the water quality, controlling the water flow and preserving the health of the ecosystem and the human communities. So this is how the water is controlled through the watershed and in such regions the areas are covered with the water and areas the water is collected, which will help the watershed management. It helps in the water quality, controlling of the water flow, preserving the water, preserving the health of the ecosystems and the human communities. Now what are the key components of watershed? So what are the key components of the watershed management? So we are having different key components of watershed management. So first of all, understanding the watershed. We have this water delineation. In water delineation, identifying the boundaries of watershed using the topographic maps and GIS. So how do we understand the watershed? So to understand the watershed, the first step is what? Watershed delineation. So what is watershed delineation? So you have to identify the boundary. Like this, the boundary should be identified from where the streams are coming and joining to a common outlet. So boundaries of watershed using the topographic maps and the GIS tools. So this step is essential for understanding the area and to contribute the water in the particular water body. Now hydrology and water flow. So what is hydrology and water flow? Understanding the movement of water within the watershed, including the surface runoff, infiltration, groundwater recharge. So hydrology and water flow is what? Understanding the movement of the water within the watershed, including the surface runoff, infiltration, groundwater recharge. So what is infiltration here? So seepage, the percolation in the ground, and the surface runoff based on the topographic conditions. How much is the surface runoff? How much is the flow? And how much is the groundwater recharge? That all is taken care in this hydrology and flow of water flow. So this involves studying the precipitation patterns, soil types, land cover, ecosystem functions. So what are the ecosystem functions here? Recognizing the natural process within the watershed. So it recognizes the natural process within the watershed. Is like, what is the natural process means, water cycle, how the water is evaporating, how much water rainfall is coming, and how much water is accumulated in such regions. So such as nutrient cycle, as I said, nutrient cycle, habitat provision, erosion control, which will support the biodiversity and the water quality of that region. Now, assessment and monitoring. So under the assessment and monitoring, this is one more component we have here. So water quality monitoring, it will regular testing of water for pollutants such as nutrients like nitrogen and phosphorus. So to monitor this water quality, regular testing of the water will be done, or like nitrogen and phosphorus sediments, heavy metals and pathogens will help us to assess and monitor these areas. So this helps to identify the sources, contamination and trends over the time of the period. Now, land use analysis, examining how different land uses like agricultural, urban development, forestry within the watershed affects the quality and the quantity of the water. So land use, what is land use? Land is like how much area is covered with the or utilized by the how much land is utilized by the agricultural developmental activities, forest boundaries. So within the watershed, it affects the quality and quantity of the water. So this includes the studying the erosion rates, impervious surfaces, vegetation cover, and we can just see about the erosion rates. So what is the impervious surfaces and the vegetation cover in such regions. Now, biodiversity and habitat monitoring, assessing the health of aquatic and riparian habitats, including the species diversity and the presence of invasive species, which are indicators of the watershed health. Now, management practices. So what are the management practices here? Best management practices. These are the specific techniques and measures implemented to reduce the pollution, manage water sustainability within the watersheds. So best management practices to be followed and to be implemented here. So what are the best management practices here is like to reduce the pollution. Watershed management says that the best management practices should be implemented, which will reduce the pollution and manage the water sustainably within the watershed region. For example, if you talk about riparian buffers, so planting vegetation along the waterways, so it will help us to reduce the water wastage. So there will not be any water wastage, only limited water to be provided in such regions. So planting the vegetations along the waterways filter the pollutants and prevent the erosion. Second thing is constructed wetlands. So creating or restoring wetlands to treat polluted water. So it will help us to create and restore the wetlands to treat the polluted water, or control the floods and enhance the biodiversity in such regions. So like this riparian bufferings we can do, like we can plant the plants or vegetations in the way, like systematic way along the vegetation along the filter pollutants, and constructed wetlands, creating or restoring the wetlands to treat the polluted water and floods and enhance the biodiversity. Now, soil conservation techniques. What are the soil conservation techniques? Practices like counter plowing, terracing, and cover cropping to reduce the soil erosion. It will help us to reduce the soil erosion and enhance the water infiltration, and even help us in the practices like counter plowing, terracing. Means these are the conservation we can do on the places where we have hilly areas where the soil erosion is more, where the problem in the cropping patterns. So that areas can be used, the counter plowing can be done. So counter plowing is like the areas will be like somewhat like this. So counter plowing will be done in such areas in this manner. Terracing means we can do the plantations or the crop agriculture we can grow in the terracing, like a terrace one we can grow, and cover cropping to reduce the soil erosion and enhance the water infiltration. So we can just reduce the cover cropping and reduce the soil erosion, and whenever the soil erosion is reduced, directly it will enhance the water infiltration. How? Because the top layer of the soil, when it holds the water, as the soil will be present in such region, the vegetation will be present in such region, it will just hold the water there itself and will enhance the water infiltration. Now, stormwater management. So implementing systems like rain gauges, rain gardens, permeable pavements detentions basins to manage runoff in urban areas and reduce the flooding. Stormwater management means the water which is the storm water management is the water which comes through rainfall in such regions like in urban areas, which will affect with the flooding in such regions. So how do we manage this is implementing the like rain gauges, we can rain gardens we can just implement in such regions, or permeable pavements we can just implement. Like permeable pavement means the footpaths and the roads we can just lay as a permeable layer where the water may seep inside the ground instead of flowing on the surface or instead of overflowing in the region, and detention basins to manage the runoff in urban areas and reduce the flooding, which will help us to reduce the flooding. Now, reforestation and afforestation is also one of the most important in this part of the management practices. So, reforestation and afforestation to be done. So, what is reforestation and afforestation? Like we have already studied about deforestation. So, deforestation is the cutting of trees. So, reverse of that is afforestation or planting of trees, or we can call it as reforestation. Planting trees, restoring the forest areas and retention, reduce the erosion, improve the habitat of that region, will help us in the reducing this. Will help us in managing the watershed areas. Now, community involvement and education should be there. For watershed management, the community involvement and education is very necessary. So, community involvement is like stakeholders engagement. So, involving the local communities, landowners, businessmen, the government agencies in the watershed planning and the decision making. So, in areas where the water is affected, the problem is there, and the areas which is the watershed area, the areas which not receiving a much rainfall, which is having a more water problems in such regions, the local community should be involved, the landowners should be involved, and the government agencies in the watershed management planning and decision making, they should be involved in such regions in the taking a decision from that. So this ensures that strategies are relevant, practical, and widely supported, which will ensure the strategies which are relevant and practical and widely supported, because as the local communities are involved here, and the landowners are involved here, as the government is involved here, so it will be relevant and practical and resilient will be there and widely supported by the people. Now, public education and outreach. How the public education is important here? So public education is very important in this kind of regions. How we can say here is educating the public about the importance of watershed, protection of water and conservation and sustainable land use practices. This can be done through the workshops and campaigns, and the school programs can be given to the people whoever staying in such watershed regions. We can just go and educate the people. We can give some workshop, and that we can tell the people to store the water, to do the rainwater harvesting, don't waste the water, or to minimize the water and don't pollute the water. This kind of education we can give to the public to support the watershed management. Volunteer programs here, encouraging the community members to participate in the activities such as water quality monitoring, like volunteers program like tree planting, cleanup drives, and which foster a sense of ownership and the responsibility for the watershed. So tree planting is what? Planting the more trees and clean up the areas, and which is having more sense of ownership, responsibility for the watershed. Now, policy and regulations. So how the policy and regulation is helpful here? Watershed management plans, it will developing the comprehensive plans that outline the goals, strategies, and actions for managing the watershed sustainably. It will help them manage the watershed sustainably. So these plans are often based on the scientific assessments and the stakeholder input. So these plans will be scientifically assessed, and the stakeholders' input will be involved in such kind of plans. And regulatory frameworks, implementing the laws, some laws to be implemented, and regulations to be implemented that will protect the water resource and control the pollution, and it can guide the land use within the watershed. Now, examples including the zoning laws, water quality standards, and the conservation assessments. Conservation easements can be done to include the laws in such regions. Water quality standards to be assessed frequently in such regions. Funding and incentives to be given, like securing financial resources for watershed management projects, often through the government grants, to be given to the people, so that they will totally involved in such kind of practices where the watershed management practices can be done in effective manner. Now, public and private partnerships or incentives for the landowners to adopt the conservation practices. So, an incentive to be given to the landowners to just participate in such kind of conservation practices wherever they are staying, which place is affected with the watershed, affected with the less rainfall, affected with the water problem. So they can just pay some incentives to those people, those who are the landowners in such regions, and they can ask them to participate in the conservation practices. Now, climate change adaptation. So, what is climate change adaptation here? So, resilience building. What is a resilience means? The implementation. The resilience means, first of all, it should be in such a manner that it should be resilient for a long time. It should be common for a long time. So, implementing strategies to adapt to the impacts of the climate change, such as increased frequency of extreme weather events, changing the precipitation patterns, and rising the temperatures of such regions will be affecting by this resilience building. Implementing strategies to adapt the impacts of climate change, such as increased frequency of the extreme weather events and changing precipitation patterns, will affect the regions of the watershed. So this includes enhancing the like it should enhance the natural water storage, diversifying the water sources, and improving the infrastructure to withstand with the flood and any kind of drought conditions. So as the climate changes time to time, so we should be able to adapt the conditions and should be able to that areas to be adapted by the people, and we should be able to manage, or we can just try to adopt such kind of things and to be managed in that region by the resilience building. Now, monitoring and adjusting. So, continuously monitoring and the watershed response of the management practices will help us to monitor and adjust the regions of such areas and environmental changes, and adjusting strategies as needed to be ensure the long-term sustainability can be followed by this process of watershed management. Now, integration with the other sectors. So, first of all, we have to manage this watershed management practices, the integration with the other sources like agriculture and urban planning. So, agriculture, we should collaborate with the farmers to adopt the practices. We should educate the farmers to adopt the practices that will reduce the nutrient runoff and conserve the water and protect the soil health. Like we can tell the farmers which can help us to, we can tell them to adopt the practices and we can educate them. So if you adopt the practices, the nutrient runoff will be less and the water conservation we can do, so that whenever the water requirement is there, we can just protect the soil health. Urban planning. What is urban planning here? Working with the urban planners to design the cities. So those who are designing the cities, those who are planning the cities, we can just work with those people to just tell about the designs, and we can just tell about the problems. We can tell about the water problems in such areas, and to minimize the impervious surfaces and manage the stormwater effectively and protect the natural waterways in such regions. So this integration with the other sectors is very important here again. Now, forestry. So we have to just integrate with the forestry also. Like we can just integrate with the forest management practices which will support the watershed health. Like integration with forest management here means that we have to just talk with the forest people, and we have to try to tell them, or we have to tell them to adopt such kind of watershed management practices to support the watershed health, and they can even such as sustainable logging problems may be reduced due to the adaptation of these watershed problems. Reforestation can be done, and for the fire management, more reforestation can be done for the fire management practices. So we have to talk with this forestry people, and we can try to manage with such kind of conditions whenever the water problem occurs in such region. So effective watershed management requires a holistic approach. So it requires a holistic approach and integrating the scientific knowledge. It will apply a holistic approach to do this appropriate watershed management, which will have the scientific knowledge, community engagement policies, and adaptive management, and the sustainable use and protection of the water resources. So, community engagement is very important here to manage this kind of integration with the sectors. So, community involvement, community management, and the policies should be adaptive in the management to ensure the sustainable use and the protection of the water resources. So here it is very important here to manage the resources based on the this kind of watershed management practices. So wherever the water problem is there, wherever the regions which are under the watershed conditions, so that regions can be managed with the help of this watershed issues can be managed with this kind of watershed practices. So wherever we can just do this practices to just find out the water problems in such regions, and we can involve the landowners, we can involve the policies, regulations, and the government to reduce the problems there, and we can just come out with the problems whenever the drought conditions, flood conditions occurs. We can just manage with that, such conditions, and we can be resilient in such regions wherever this kind of problems will occur at such conditions. So this is about the watershed management, and I hope you understood what is watershed and what is watershed management. So watershed is the like drains from the common, it sheds the water and it drains to the common outlet. And management, why it is required, means wherever the water problem is occurring due to the natural disasters or man-made disasters, we have to just overcome with that situations, and we can just adopt these strategies to solve these issues. So I hope you understood about the watershed management. So these are the few references you can just go through to find out the more content about it. Dr. M.N.G. Reddy book to find out the more content about the watershed management. Just go through these links to get more information about it, about the watershed management. These are the few references. Just go through and find out the more content about it. So that's all for today. Thank you.
Like, share and subscribe. Hit the bell icon for more updates.